Kim, how are you? And I know you're excited about our guest.
I'm doing great. Thank you, Neil. And yes, I am excited. This has been a long time coming, Angie. We've been trying to get together. Angie Orth, you have lived my life, I think, or something like that. But in the corporate world, successful, and then decide to say goodbye to all of that and buy a one-way ticket to wherever you bought a one-way ticket to and go have this eat, pray, love experience. And I have been so excited to talk to you about it. You're a travel writer. You are a contributor to a lot of different places, and you do so many amazing things. And I just want to welcome you to the show.
Oh my gosh, thanks for having me. That was a great introduction.
Yeah. Okay. So my first question is this. You grew up, did you travel a lot when you grew up? Was traveling always something in your blood?
Not a ton. We did a bit. Mostly, we were in Florida, so we did a lot of Disney World, did a lot of Epcot around the world. So that was the extent of it, really. A cruise here and there to the Bahamas, but not any major travel. My mom wasn't really into it. She doesn't like to fly, so a little
Oh,
bit here and there,
oh,
mostly
wow.
domestic.
So how did that kind of start that you started really saying travel blogger? Because it's such a big business now, meaning everyone that's trying to travel vlog, travel this, travel that. How did you get involved? Especially you're more of a journalist than some of these travel people, right? Especially working with some big platforms
Yeah.
as a travel writer.
Well, so my background is public relations, and I worked in New York at a big agency on the travel side of things. So I promoted travel and destinations and cruise lines and airlines for years. So that kind of put me in this circle of travel writers and very, very at the beginning of travel blogging. We were like, what do we do with these people? What even is a travel blogger? And at that point, around 2006, I had a blog myself, but it was just to tell people what I was doing in New York. It was just to like proof of life, tell my parents that I'm alive. Here's a fun thing that happened. Go. So I'd worked in it for a while and decided work is never going to love me as much as I love it. Maybe if I'm going to go see the world, I'm just going to have to go do it. I'm going to have to quit and run off and do the thing. And so I had my blog and I just kind of took it from there. And that was 2011. So I was very lucky to be on the front of the wave. And it was before you could monetize. It was before anyone ever considered it being a career. When I quit, it was very much like, you're never going to get a job again. No one's ever going to hire you in corporate again, you flaky flake. And then, lucky me, it grew a following, and I've been able to turn it into a career that's lasted ever since.
Yeah, and a great career, it seems like, and a fun career, right? It's so much
Definitely.
fun when you get to do what you love, and
Yes.
you obviously love this. So your mom, uh, when she started telling her friends, well, what does your daughter do? When she got that question, and she had to answer, she's a travel blogger back when people had no idea what that was. What was that like for her? And was it scary for her to have you out traveling and doing the things you do?
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm still, I think, forbidden from leaving the country to this day, and it's been many, many years. But they're a lot more on board with it now. And I think, my mom thinks it was all her idea all along. But my parents were very nervous, and my grandparents, everybody was very scared. And that's when I moved to Atlanta after college. And then I moved to New York. And every step I took was a little too far outside the nest. And looking back, I'm like, yeah, no, they were kind of right that things were scary. And that's what my book's about, is all these sort of insane things that I came across. And the world can be a scary place, but
Mhm.
there's a lot to be said for being prepared.
Because getting a story is not easy, regardless if it's travel or anything. Getting a story because everyone wants to be quiet, and you have to search for that story and hunt for that story and know what are readers really going to want. And when you work for someone else, you got to make sure that you're providing the results, like what the readers are looking for. What are they gonna what are my editors gonna be happy with me at the end of the day? So how am I going to step out of the box to make it even better, right?
Yeah, well, and that's one thing about how blogging has changed over the years. When it started out, it was truly, hey guys, I'm in Africa today. Look, an elephant. And that was the extent of it. It was like, look at the fun thing I did today. Now, anytime I create content, I'm thinking about what the audience needs to hear. What information do they need about this trip? How can they book it? Where should they stay? What should they eat? What are the things they need to think about? How to stay safe? So it's completely different than when I started, but I like it. And I like providing that information for people and thinking through, if I was planning a trip, what would I do? And what are my steps, and helping other people do that.
I think there's a couple things, Angie, that make you unique compared to other travel writers. Like, there are some great travel writers out there, don't get me wrong, but you're in a different category because you bring so much of yourself into your articles and you're so funny. And you wrote this book, Flirting with Disaster, which is hysterical. I mean, it's so funny, and it's such a great book. I love it. And I'm just, have you always been funny, Angie? Have you always just been funny?
I think so. I don't know. I think I kind of leaned into being the funny girl in middle school because I was kind of a nerdy girl, and I was, the kid with no money and the kid who shopped at Goodwill, and my parents didn't have nice cars, and I went to prep school on a scholarship. So I think I probably developed it as a bit of a defense mechanism, and now I just like to make people laugh. I really wanted the book to crack people up. Like, in addition to being travel, I wanted it to be the funniest travel book anybody's read. And I mean, I don't know if that's the case, but I'm
You
proud
did
of
it.
it.
And after COVID, how many people still are challenged to want to go out and travel, that are still used to the Zooms, and especially business travel? I think business travel has decreased. I don't know what the percent is. It's a pretty larger percent because we're always on Zooms, even though I think we need to physically be at places. I'm getting tired of it. I've been doing so
Yeah.
many Zooms all the time. But what percentage travel was lost with COVID?
It was a lot for a while there. And I think people have reevaluated the necessity of being in person for a meeting. And maybe we reevaluate the most strategic way to do that and the most cost-effective way to do that. There's still people traveling for business a ton. And I think travel has bounced back to where it was before 2020. Like, we're back on track, and people are traveling like crazy, and prices are bonkers right now. Even for domestic flights, you're finding some really high prices. But I think travel's back in a huge way.
Great.
Yeah, I think so too. I've seen that. It's a wonderful thing, I think, because when you get outside your boundaries, you get a whole different view of life. And what would you say to the people who just are afraid, or they're just limited for whatever reason and just don't leave their city or their state?
Oh gosh. I'd say there's a lot of value in seeing and meeting people that aren't like you. And you don't have to be scared that it's going to change your beliefs or who you are, but it will give you compassion for others, and an understanding of maybe why people react the way that they do, in a way that you can't understand unless you get out there and meet them.
Yeah, and definitely. And what do you think you want people to know most about that read your book? Like, what is that ultimate goal?
Mm. I think it's for people who might be a little bit lost and aren't sure what to do next, or people who have ever felt like that. Like, I'm supposed to do X, Y, and Z, but I'm not really that excited about it. And I don't want to be in the box that people, in the life that people have designed for me. It doesn't necessarily have to be like that for everybody. So whatever it is, I'm not saying go travel, quit your job, and throw everything out the window and don't become a mother. Like, that's not it. It's just God's designed us all really special and different and unique, and we all have different paths. So as long as you're on the path and you're searching that out, then I think that's really great. And that's the message of the book.
Yes, well, and some bravery thrown in there, right? It needs to kind of accompany things sometimes. But
Do it
yeah,
scared.
it
That's what I always
is.
say. Do it scared, because I have always been scared, and I'm still scared. So it's not like you kind of get over the hump and you're not afraid to travel anymore, or afraid to try new things, or rappel off a waterfall. Like, I'm still scared to do all that stuff. It's just I know that there's value in doing it scared.
Mhm.
And that's the thing. And Kim, if you don't go out, get yourself out there, you're missing out, right? To
Yeah.
really be a
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I echo you, Angie. It's so different when you travel, because you do meet people that are different than you,
Yeah.
because we're a world full of different people, and we're not
Yes.
all the same. We're all uniquely made. We're all masterpieces. We're all one of a kind. And So meet some other one-of-a-kind people is such a cool thing. Is that what you find is the best part of travel? Is the people? Is it the food? Is it the lodging? Is it the
You know, it all depends. I think you can meet some really terrible people traveling too. Don't get me wrong. If you've ever sat next to like a bad seatmate on the plane, you know. Um, but some people are lessons and some people are lifetime friends, and you just never know what you're going to get once you kind of step out your door and what's going to sweep you away that day. Yeah, but the food, you can't go wrong. I love to try different food. I think I'm getting pickier as I get older, but I have eaten some incredible food around the world. And yeah, there's still places I'm like, oh, Greece. I would kill for a kebab right now, or and then you get to this point where once you've had it there, you have it at home and it's just not the same. And then you're just dreaming of sauce or a spice. And oh yeah, this made my mouth water just thinking, just starting to think about all those favorite meals.
All right. So Kim has her question. She asks every guest. Go ahead, Kim, on the podcast. Go.
So I did my own Eat, Pray, Love experience. I dedicated a year to figuring out the true meaning of love. And I was in Haiti most of the time, and it just blew my mind. It rocked my world. The things that I found out about love that are different than some of the things we know about love, and more than some of the things we know about love. And so I am curious, in your life, Angie, where does love play a role? How do you see love?
Oh my, we don't have enough time for that. But I think relating it back to the book and the travels, just having love for people that you don't even know, and sort of walking out and knowing that everyone you meet is uniquely created and special to someone, even if you don't know them, and kind of treating them with that in mind. And even when people treat you poorly, thinking, maybe they just had a bad day, and having grace for people. I think that's just a foundation of love. And I try to approach everything like that. I'm not always nice. I'm not always loving, but I do try. And I think there's hope in knowing that there's love in the world, and that there's people that do care, even if they don't know you. There's people that care and would do what they could to help. And I try to be one of those kind of people.
Fantastic. Best place people could pick up your book is go where?
It's available everywhere you buy books. So Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all the fun places.
Fantastic. We appreciate you coming by, and thanks again.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome to Birch Tree Park. Accessible by a lush green walking path, Birch Tree Park sits on 3/4 of an acre on Ashland Drive. It's one of Bethel Park's many neighborhood parks, with each having its own set of unique characteristics. Visitors will find Birch Tree Park to have a lot of green space to enjoy while picnicking at the pavilion, playing a game of basketball on the one-half court, or watching their children play on the recently updated playground equipment. The basketball court also features hopscotch, and the playground equipment, selected by area residents, includes a 3-seater spring toy, a swing set, and many different sliding and climbing structures for the kids. So be sure to stop by and visit Birch Tree Park, another Bethel Park hidden gem.
Kim, how are you? And I know you're excited about our guest.
I'm excited about our guest, and I'm doing great. Thank you, Neil. Ivan Decker is my new favorite comedian. He is hysterical. Born in Montreal. I've got a daughter-in-law from Montreal, but then moved to Vancouver. So you're a coast-to-coast kind of a guy. And you're so funny, relatable. The things that you talk about I just love it. I'm so excited to dive in. My first question for you, Ivan, after saying welcome to the show, is
Thank you very much.
yeah. Did you really meet your wife because of a fundraiser?
I did, yeah. I didn't exactly get into comedy to meet women, but it would be a bad plan because I never met a romantic partner through performance. And so if your plan is to meet a partner doing stand-up, the plan that worked for me was do it for 9.5 years, then you'll meet someone. So it took me that long before I finally had a romantic encounter. But yeah, I met my wife at a corporate gig, and it was crazy. It all worked out from there. It's wild that it happened, but I'm excited.
Well, at that corporate gig, were you doing comedy or speaking or anything?
Yeah, so it was a fundraiser for multiple sclerosis, which is a cause that I always try to donate my time to. It's in my family, and so it kind of just lined up that the club booked me to do this gig, and I was like, okay, that's great. What a great cause. And then on top of that, I also met my wife, so pretty good night all around.
Right. Yeah. A little bit longer process than maybe Match.com, but you got there eventually. So that was okay.
Yeah, you got to
So,
write a lot more jokes before when you're doing stand up than Match.com.
right, right. There you go. Yeah, got to have a better profile somehow. So and now you're a father too, which has got to be exciting. 18-month-old or so. How old is
Yes.
your?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he just crossed 19 months last week. So he's starting to do the toddler stuff. Throwing is a lot of throwing. It's kind of crazy how, when they're done their food, they're like, I'm not going to say anything about this, but I am going to throw all of it on the ground, and very meticulously too. Like, he's committed. He doesn't just throw a handful and be like, yeah, you get the message that I'm done. He'll get mad if you don't let him throw every single Cheerio onto the floor. And then he'll look at you like, pretty good, right? Cleaned it all up. Look at that.
So I've been kind of going out there and being a parent, and not because of your business, a lot of travel,
Yeah.
a lot of later nights, even if you are in town, never getting any sleep, right?
Yeah,
Sleep,
it's a lot.
sleep deprived, right?
I mean, that's the thing. I talk about it on stage, but everybody warns you before you have a kid. They're like, you're not going to sleep. And I remember
I
being,
didn't sleep for 20 years, and now I
yeah,
finally woke up.
I was like, I can do it. I've stayed up all night drinking. Yeah, you ever stayed up all night not drinking? It's way worse. That's not nearly as fun.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. But thank goodness for cable TV or Netflix or something.
Yeah.
Because yeah, when I had kids, I don't think there was TV on after midnight. So
Oh my goodness.
congratulations, kudos to you. Yes.
Yeah.
And so you're an award-winning comedian, and you've got this new special that came out recently, Popcorn. I'm a popcorn, I hate to say addict, but definitely a big fan of popcorn. I love the way you talk about popcorn. And I'm
Thank you.
curious, is it really your favorite snack?
Yeah, well, I just think it sits in this upper tier of snack. Like, obviously, you have cravings, you're in the mood for different things, but popcorn is unique in the fact that you can have it whenever. There's no time that popcorn shows up. You can eat an entire meal. You can be so full that
Yeah.
someone pulls out a bowl of popcorn. They're like, "Do you want this?" You're like, "Oh yeah, I'll eat that whole bowl, no problem." There's
All
room
right,
in me for
favorite
this.
types of popcorn. Go.
I'm actually, this is controversial, but I'm a big fan of the Chicago mix. I like
Oh,
the cheese and caramel together. You get sweet and savory. It's a different ratio in each handful. It's a real treat, and it's if sometimes it's fun. You get a whole handful of caramel. Oh, you won the sweet lottery.
And the
that is my
gimmick,
favorite too. I gotta say, Garrett's in Chicago is my favorite popcorn. I don't know if you've had Garrett's
No, I
Chicago
haven't.
blend. Oh,
I gotta
once
go.
you have it, you'll never go back to anything else. It's so good,
Okay.
Garrett's. You gotta get some, or give me your address. I'll send you some.
All
But
right.
so I'm on the other end of things, but I want to talk more because I'm a grandma, but I want to talk more about your special because you've done other things. Popcorn is absolutely hilarious. You've already gotten tons of views. And what was it like? You filmed in front of a live audience. So kind of there's probably no editing. Like you just got to roll with it. What was that like to do it?
Yeah, it's definitely a fun. This is kind of the fun part of stand up for me is I'm a real kind of joke craftsman, and you can tell if you watch the special just how many jokes I try to pack into each topic, and the bridge and space between each joke and each laugh is I try to get that as narrow as possible. So for me, it's this very cool labor of love where I take the hour or the 40 minutes that I'm going to do for the special and I tour it around all across the country, go to clubs and just try it out in every different circumstance. And that's such a unique, and I'm lucky to have this experience to be more of a national / international comedian, because I can try the material in front of as broad of an audience as possible. Sometimes when I did my first album, I hadn't really left Vancouver very much. And so I didn't even realize that there were a lot of references in there that people outside of the city aren't even going to understand. And so it's so fun to get to do something like this, because I can try it out absolutely everywhere, figure out which jokes go where, and make it really the best possible version. And then you're totally right. On the night, we filmed 2 shows back to back, and we had those to cut between for editing, but that's it. We didn't do a large production, and there was no stopping and starting. I just kind of came out and did the show and then left. And then we had to kind of salvage. If there was anything wrong, we had to kind of, we hope we got it in 2. Otherwise, it's not making the cut, essentially. And so that part of it is very nerve-wracking, but the audience was phenomenal. They all showed up. I sold it out quite quickly, which was great. The club was so happy. They like took pictures of people lined up around the block for the late show, because I hadn't been there since before the pandemic, and they hadn't really had that kind of a response, especially not on a Thursday night. And so they were very thrilled. Everything went so well, and my director Peter is incredible, and he cut it together and made it look really, really nice, better than I could have ever done, of course. And so I'm very pleased with it.
All right. So 2 things. First, popcorn. I love the gimmick popcorn. I call it the gimmick park. And the reason I use gimmick all the time is I'm a former professional wrestler. It's going back into wrestling at 51 again. I'm crazy.
Oh, nice.
But we'll talk about popcorn. I'm going to define popcorn in 2 ways. One is the gimmick popcorns, the expensive popcorns. You go to the mall and you get different flavors. I think it was Pittsburgh popcorn or something they have right in Pittsburgh, but it's just awesome to have those different popcorns. But I like the basic popcorn. But here's a bad connotation of popcorn. Here's a performer to performer question. Okay.
Sure.
We call in wrestling the popcorn match. And the popcorn match is right before intermission. Do you have a popcorn match do you have a popcorn when you're on with other comedians that they call it popcorn anything?
There's popcorn movies, which I'm sure you've heard. And like, I assume the popcorn match is like, it's a match that people will leave early. They won't.
No, that's right before intermission. And then it's the roughest match to have is the popcorn match.
Okay. Yeah. Cause they're feeling, it's like movies too. I think it gives, it's got a negative connotation because you're associating with popcorn, but I think it also puts a positive spin onto popcorn itself and just shows you how great popcorn is, that it can take this bad movie and lift it up. You're like, it's a popcorn movie, meaning even though it's a bad movie, as long as you get to eat popcorn, you're going to have a good time.
Have you ever gone to the movies just for the popcorn?
I have, yeah, early on. I mean, it's the price difference is like, it's crazy, but you have to understand that it's the whole experience. They got this whole big machine and all that stuff. But yeah, I definitely know what you mean, Neil, and there is that negative connotation around it. But that was kind of the thing that I was thinking of too when I named the special popcorn, is that it's not heavy. It's not I'm not trying to change anybody's mind with any of this material. Like, it's very much just fun. Anybody can watch it. You can show it to your kids, you can show it to your grandparents, and it makes it so much more fun and accessible for me when I get to have families that watch it together. Like, that's always a fun thing for me when I get messages from people being like, our whole family loves your act. And whereas if you have a specific focused style, sometimes you can lose that familial connection in people consuming your art.
All right, so I'm going to be correct on this, and this goes to live. The popcorn match was originally described as a post-intermission match viewed as not important enough to keep fans from trips to the concession stands, which we mentioned. Now describes more lighthearted match designed to provide relief of dramatic tension. And that's the other thing is the popcorn match is kind of just to entertain, but it really doesn't have any gimmick. You're put in that position and things like that. So what the theme, we just brought popcorn up 25 times. I never thought I had the interview to talk about everything popcorn. Now Orville Redenbacher needs to contact you and you get a sponsorship from them.
Yeah.
But tell us why you named it popcorn.
So that was kind of the idea. And the joke about popcorn was kind of a real, like, that's one of those, anybody who's created art knows every once in a while, there is a moment in your art creation where a project or a piece will just kind of erupt out of you in a way that pulls it forward, and it almost seems like it's doing its own. It takes on a life of its own. And that popcorn bit was the joke that I couldn't stop writing. Like it just kept getting longer and longer and longer. And every time I told it, I would think of a new thing for it. And certain jokes, you know, you think you have this grand idea. You're like, oh, this will be a 20-minute bit. And then you're like, there's really only one good laugh in here. And then it becomes, you know, a 1-minute bit that you throw in between two other jokes. But the popcorn bit was so like I think it comes in at like 9 minutes on the special or something like that. So it's quite a long time spent on one topic. And I know that's daunting for the audience to hear, but I assure you there are laughs along the way. You have to wait that long. But it's like I realized that was kind of the focus. I also wanted a one-word title. My previous album that won the Judo Award was called I Wanted to Be a Dinosaur. And it's too many words for people, hosts, things. You know, obviously you two are professionals, you would understand it, but like even Conan got it wrong when he said it, when he introduced me. And like every time I was on a show, people would be like, it's called I Want a Dinosaur or just whatever. So I was like, I'm going to make an easy name that anybody can say. That way nobody has to get it wrong in this time of like people needing to Google you and Google things about you. Having a simple prompt that people can remember,
That's
I
good.
think was part of what I went into the thinking of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that is good. I love the name and I love popcorn, so it all works for me. So you were a middle child,
Yes.
I believe, right? Two brothers, one older, one younger. And you solved issues through comedy. Is that how you started in comedy? Or how'd you
Yeah, I
know,
think
how do you
so.
know you're funny?
I was always drawn to funniness. I think because of what you were saying, Neil, with the wrestling, the relief of dramatic tension, I think is something
Yeah.
a lot of people use comedy for. And in my household, you know, my parents split up when we were younger, and so there was a lot of negativity and stuff happening. And I always found that as the middle child, I was I don't know, maybe I'll talk to a therapist about it someday, but I think the ability to deflect and just kind of move away from the tension or take the heaviness that sits after a fight or something bad happens and to be able to disperse it quickly with comedy and kind of get everybody back to like, all right, we're just hanging out, we're a family again. That was sort of, I think, the position I found myself in a lot as the middle child. And so also, you know, you need attention. So you got to get in there
Right.
if you're the middle child. Otherwise,
So,
nobody's
so
going to remember you.
I define a popcorn question in the beginning of an interview, especially if you're going to have a 30-minute interview with a top celebrity. Popcorn questions, very simple ones, no real smarts to them. Did you always want to be a comedian? So I call that a popcorn question. You really worked hard to get this book started, right? The only reason is to get the answer to lead us to something else. Then the ice is broken. Like, don't worry, I'm not going to ask you who's Beethoven. You know, tough questions. But we're going to get to know you, and that's how I do it. I do very softball or popcorn type questions, first 3 or 4, and then I hit people when they least expect it.
That's perfect. Yeah. Lure them in. The trick of popcorn.
Yeah.
Till they get their guard down. They're like, we're having a good time. We're having popcorn. And then bam, you trick them. That's good. I love interviews like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of like when you go to a tough movie, right?
Yeah.
While you're eating the popcorn. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. You can look down. The popcorn's always there for you, even though it's high tension. Everything's scary.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. It's not going to desert you. It won't leave you.
Yeah.
So you became a comedian. I'm sure a lot of people who wish they could, but there's a lot of people who absolutely could never do what you do. But you actually have to get up on stage. At one point in time, you had your first show, and it's only you on stage. You know, you're not part of a team. You're not part of something. It's only you, just laid out for the audience to critique. What was that like? And has it changed from when you started till now? What's your transition been like?
Yeah, it's definitely very daunting at first. I think it's so daunting that you can't even really grasp the magnitude of it at first. I think it's like when you have to get up in front of a group and speak at any situation, at a party or a corporate event or whatever it is, when someone's like, all right, it's your turn to speak. there's so much to worry about that it's almost like you can't even focus on it all. You kind of just have to go up and do it. And that's what you do for the first, like, as many times as you can. You just kind of get through it and feel all of the different weird feelings that you get and the nervousness, and you learn to just kind of live in that zone. And then now I think the way that I've progressed is, I'm not sure how you guys feel about it, but I definitely think that there's as a performer or any kind of artist, even athletes, before the show, the moment that everybody is going to focus on you,
Right.
it's the buildup that you learn to adapt with. Your pre-show or pre-event ritual is something that kind of builds out the longer you get, because the more experiences you have. I'm sure with wrestling, it's a big thing. Like, what do you do before you go out there? What kind of thoughts do you think? What kind of things do you do? Who do you talk to? Who do you not talk to? What do you eat? You know, all that stuff, even down to like socks. I mean, there's some comedians that are very superstitious about that, but I think you learn to find comfort in that nervousness because it's never going to go away.
Yeah.
You just want to have a little bit of control by establishing that ritual.
I have the ritual going live or doing a show all the time, where I've done over 20,000 in 15 years, that I have just learned specifically just to go. But that first question, that second question, it's like, okay, I could talk for hours, but get the opening and closing is the hardest thing. And I'm sure it's the same thing in the comedy. All right, Kim, I guess we're getting ready for the closing question, which is her love question. So go ahead, Kim.
Yeah. So Ivan, I dedicated a year to figuring out the true meaning of love, because
Incredible.
love is, a big question, right? What is love? And I was in Haiti most of the time. And I actually laughed a lot in Haiti, which, you wouldn't look at Haiti and think of it as a place you'd laugh a lot, but you do, or I did.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I found out things about love that I never knew about love. And I'm just curious where love plays a role in it, because I would imagine, have to love what you're doing, but then you're also drawn to your family. And where does love play a role in your life?
It's huge. It's, I think, a major motivator for me. I'm so lucky to be in such a loving family with my son and my wife. And I even think that my wife's relationship in that circumstance, I got very lucky. My wife and I got along from our first date, and it was it was a feeling that I hadn't felt with anybody else up to that point. And it was this real thing of like, it's so cliched, but it's like when you meet the right person, right away. And it's this real thing where like the relationship, feels like we're getting away with something. You're like, this shouldn't be, because I've been with people who it's so much more difficult. And so I'm just so blessed to be in that circumstance. But also, even just from the art form side, the performance aspect, you have to love comedy. You have to love what you're doing. And in my circumstance, what I learned early on, and what I've tried to maintain throughout the years, is I have to love the audience. I have to want them to enjoy themselves and to have a good time. Some comedians, some performers have a somewhat adversarial relationship with the audience. I think they're like, I'm going to go out and smash. I'm going to kill I'm very much like, I love them. I want them to enjoy themselves. And doing that, it helps me to be in a place where I can have a lot more fun. Everybody can kind of relax and let their guard down. Because the way that you laugh with the people you love is on another level. When you're fully comfortable, when you know that you trust everybody in a room with you, when you're surrounded by loved ones, the way you laugh with your family or your friends, that's such a pure high form. And I always think of that, the times that I've laughed with my brothers, like the giggling, uncontrollable giggling that's like so insane. And as a comedian, it's like, it's so hard. You can't replicate that. There's little moments where you can kind of get close, but it's that pure form where there's just tears and everybody's laughing and having an incredible time. That's the goal for me, is if I can ever get there.
You will. You can all the time. And then it's the best place people can go check you out. Where can they go?
I post all my tour dates on my Instagram account through my Linktree. I have everywhere that I'm going to be showing up there. It's also on my website, ivandecker.com. My Instagram is at Ivan W. Decker. Facebook is at Ivan Decker. That has a link to the Linktree as well. And then also, if you want to see what I do to get motivated to come see me, see the special on YouTube. It's just called Popcorn.
Appreciate it, sir.
Welcome to Oak Tree Park. Located on Summit Street, the over 3-acre Oak Tree Park has a true identity of its own, complete with Bethel Park's first Gaga Ball court. Not sure what Gaga Ball is? You can learn by reading the rules that are right on the court. The beautiful neighborhood park was renovated in 2021 to provide a larger playground area, complete with new equipment, selected by local residents for kids of all ages. So, bring your family to enjoy a fun play structure with a slide and a tire swing, several spring toys, and a swing set complete with seats for all ages. To make everyone cooler and more comfortable, a sunshade was installed over the playground and baseball viewing area. Oak Tree Park also has a basketball court and a youth baseball softball field. And before you stop by, be sure to pack a picnic basket to enjoy a few snacks or a nice meal under our upgraded pavilion. Oak Tree Park, another Bethel Park hidden gem.
We're back to the Neil Haley Show, and I am excited to welcome director Kimo Stamble. And it's so amazing for you to come on. Again, the movie comes out in the U.S. on April 26th, gripping horror thriller, Dancing Village, The Curse Begins. Kimo, thanks for stopping by. How are you?
Oh, I'm good, Neil. Thanks. Thanks for having me, man.
How amazing this, when you were growing up, did you think that you'd be directing something that would be coming to the US and would have such a tremendous success like this film has had?
Wow, no, not at all. But since I was a little, I always dreamed to be a filmmaker, though. And the ones that inspired me, actually, when I was little, my dad took me to Universal Studios in Florida. And that's kind of when I was, I think, 7 or 6 years old. So that something inspired me a lot, man. And so yes, but never in my mind that I will have my movie actually being distributed throughout the US, though. This is like, wow.
I mean, that's got to be a wow factor. I mean, it's a wow factor for me, even though I've done so many celebrity interviews to know I'm interviewing you and your film's going to be right in my city. I've had a couple of them this week, and I always pinch myself to say, I never knew as an independent artist, because I'm an independent talk show, number 4 celebrity podcast in the world, according to FeedSpot in the world.
Ooh,
and
awesome.
I never in a million years would have thought, wow, the stuff I'm talking about is right there, right down the road, and for you to do the whole thing in the US. Now, tell us about this project. Yeah. You created this. How did you come up with the idea of Dancing Village?
Actually, it's from a thread, and this is like a prequel, or you can say a spin-off of this movie, the previous one, and it was very successful, the number one, and the producers asked me to direct this prequel, and it was a surprise, because and at the same time it's always a pressure, because okay, the previous one have a big success in Indonesian cinema, and then they asked me to do the number 2, like the sequel or prequel in this matter. And that gave me like, wow, a big of pressure suddenly because of the success. But it was a big challenge. They said to me, okay, Kimo, this is going to be, we are planning to shoot it film for IMAX. And it's a big wow, again, a second wow, that, okay, I think I should take this project in. And of course, it's horror. Horror is all of my careers has been a horror, and this is something that I would love to do. But the challenge is I have to make it PG-13, and that's something that, okay, that's another big challenge, and it's involved a lot of dancing. Oh, okay. And that one also, oh man, this is not an easy task to do. And luckily I have a chance to talk with the author and involve a little bit with the script writer on this, and we shape it together. And at the end of the day, a lot of pressure, and hopes for this project, because they sort of have a bigger scale on this one. And and that part, it's really, really unsafe, but I took the risk, and voila, and we never thought that this is going to be picked up by Lionsgate and distributed throughout the US, the North America. So
Okay, so it's a
crazy.
prequel. So you're saying it's a prequel to the one that was so successful. Let's talk about the one that was so successful first, without giving it away, because I'm sure people are going to go back in the US that love this film and come back and watch the original, the one that has blown the world, your country
apart. The Indonesian community, the Indonesian audience.
So go to that one first. I'm just intrigued by that, because just to give us a little bit of the understanding how you created this one without giving anything away. You understand?
Okay. The number one, it's quite successful because it's based on a thread that actually been talked about it by the Twitter community in Indonesia, and the studio decided to make it in 2019, late 2019, and supposed to release 2020. But the world's kind of stopped in 2020 and is actually being released again in 2022. When it's released in 2022, because of that pandemic era, people still talking about the thread of there in Twitter, and at that time, at that release, it's kind of a big moment for the title, and it's just blew up and becoming the most anticipated film of that year on 2022. And because of that, it become really big, and the story itself, it sort of talk about this village and this college students going into that village to do some prerequisite for university program, and started weird stuff happening towards this college people, and someone died, and it become viral, because this is, the author said, this is based on true story, right? And also because of that, the movie really, really took off. And a couple of years after that, the same producers approached me, hey, you want to do it the second one, and the second one, but the second one, the story, it's kind of different. It's kind of like a prequel or a little bit spin-off from the number one. It tell a story about this entity, and tell a story about this other character who comes to the village trying to find an answer of the mother's illness. Apparently, the mother took something away from that village, and to the character's surprise, that oh, the mother actually came from that village, and and a lot of things happen, because the child, the daughter, actually want to save the mother, because and she sort of finding out more and more about something weirdness happened with the village, and all of that.
Well, so without giving it away, but you think about, that's scary just to go to a village, right? You never know the mysterious things of that village. And then so you're basically finding more about the village, that in the first movie, the college kids ended up stuck there, right? So that's the kind of the process. And when I watched the trailer, it scared me a lot. Because you think of specific things. It seems like you hit them right off the bat with something really, really scary. I don't want to know what's the mind of yours, Kimo. What kind of mind do you have to think about these types of horror genre films that you can come up with and create this stuff?
I think hopefully I have a normal mind, but I talk about I talk with the author, the author who knows actual story, what's going on, from his story, from his experience, talking, knowing the true story about it, and I try to visualize. I always do R-rated film, so for this one it's a PG-13, so it's sort of, it's much more easier to, well, not easier, but I think it's better to do, limit yourself than becoming over, right? And but obviously that's not not very easy, but it is something that you can do, right? And because of of that, I think the treatment just hopefully is just in the right water for the PG-13, and people can get that experience, especially if you watch it in more bigger screen like IMAX. I think we design also with we try to get the sound design also right, and hopefully feel immersed in watching in that theater.
Well, it's got to be really, really exciting. When you finally got to see your film on the big screen with Lionsgate, it just kind of it blew you away, I'm sure. And the feedback
until today,
now,
yes.
and sure, it's opened doors for you after this, right? You have other projects coming you can't tell you about, right?
Yes. Of course, sir. Because next up, I do have a project with the same studio. Another sequel before this project, so yeah, that will be cool, especially for that. And also I'm doing right now with Netflix, and hopefully you guys can actually watch it in Netflix for next year.
Oh, great.
It's the same genre, horror, so yeah.
Oh, but you can't say anything yet. You're in the busy going through it, and it's amazing, right? This is such an opportunity for filmmakers. Wouldn't you agree? With all the platforms and with how the strike kind of slowed everything down, that the people that stuck with it, they're going to reap the rewards right now because of it.
Yeah, correct, exactly. And I think Netflix also opening doors for us for to explore new genre, and because they have the world audience already in their hands, right? So yeah, it's pretty much lucky for us here.
All right, so people need to go ahead and check out Dancing Village, The Curse Begins, available in U.S. theaters on April 26th, Friday, especially in Pittsburgh and all these different cities. Go ahead and check all where it's located and everything. Go check out the trailer. Appreciate it, Kimo.
Awesome,
I know you're going to get some big things coming for you, and that's exciting.
Oh,
ride the wave. Ride the wave, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right.